we do not think about situations like that unless you really see that emergency, that everybody has to evacuate and then somebody is doing it and the lift is not working, and then you find that on the 14th floor there's an elderly person who is 87-year-old who has been bedridden for the last 3 years. That person has to evacuate and the family is desperately trying to bring that person down. So we have to do this in our RWAs, in our societies, and then get this into the as a second culture of the children, because from the children need to know this, because educating the children is actually educating an entire generation. It stays with them for the whole lifetime, and that is one reason why school safety is so important. Teaching the children is very important because it's an investment. Yes.
So would we have some trainers which are, say, registered with NDMA, or
no, actually,
in case I go and approach the school and we discuss with them, and they want to do
we would be able to. In fact, if you really look at a recent, last week there was an exercise where Honeywell identified 50 schools in the NCR region as Honeywell safety schools. So there is a school safety exercise which Honeywell is doing. There are organizations which are actually working on school safety. We can give you a list of people and institutions who can come in and provide you the response. And Dr. Raka with GNIDA, he will be able to give you also a lot of references to institutions and individuals who can be there.
Great. Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
thank you. Yes.
The cause for Chennai flooding was different. There was a continuous raining for a week time, 5 days, day and night, 24 hours, continuous raining, and all the water bodies are filled. So then, due to the increasing water level of the tank, then the maintenance authority have to lift the water gauge. Suddenly, even it was told that after getting clearance from the district authority only, it was ordered and opened. But the opening time was night. It was not able to be communicated to the people who are living on the bank or low-lying area. Generally, the district administration used to do like, but that was not able to be communicated. So, sudden flow of water, that was the main cause. And after the flood, Government of India appointed a committee to study the causes. Again, the committee submitted report, it seems. Based on the committee's report, again, the performance audit was conducted by the Accountant General of Audit of the region, southern region, and they also studied certain few departments in depth, including CMDA. During the concluding session of the study report, it was pointed out that certain and the main cause for the flood and the loss damages is because of the faulty planning, urban planning. That was one of the focusing cause, and all the mass media are projecting. And the authorities concerned, right from the technical people to the secretary who is heading the department, we are strongly focused, opposing, and across the table we explained for each reason with the cases, the findings of the cases, point by point, we explained all these things. And we made it very clear that no approved developments were allowed on the stretch. Whatever the development they pointed out, as construction and other things, they pointed out was an unauthorized development, and for which the overall planning authority at a metropolitan level was the agency to control. But the local self-government who is having control over the smaller area at the lower level is supposed to have done it. But yes, there are a few structures. That is point number one. Point number two, the committee clearly pointed out that all the low-lying, and while preparing the land use plan, the planning authority should zone certain area as a flood flood-prone zone, and restrict the developments. This was the one of the point. In this regard, I wanted to get your suggestion. Okay, so but we made it very clear. This was the area. It's about 1,189 square kilometer is the metropolitan area, which is there right from 1975. This experience was happened after 100 years of that. Generally, urban planning is being done after having the experiences or the studies of the past 20 years or 30 years. We project our future requirement for 20 years plan period. This is how a master plan and a town planning act is being prepared for an urban center. So keeping that in mind, we declare the whole area as a metropolitan area. We projected the population and quantified all the required land uses based on the future population and zoned all each and every parcel of the land. But which includes certain pocket as a non-urban area, right? But when we zone area for particular use, and when the authority, again, the land owning, land rights giving authority, revenue authority, we may say revenue authority, they are authorized to give rights, the pata, to the landowner. Okay, so all the lands are being owned by different persons, not like DDA's picture, Chennai. So owned by different persons, but so they have got a right to develop. But when we say
but then how does unauthorized development take place?
Coming. So they have got a right to develop. If we say that no, you should not develop, either all those lands zoned for such a flood-prone zone, maybe 500 meters. The report suggested that 500 meters on both sides of the main water course should be marked. So if that is the case, we said, from our side, the official side, we said either the government should not give pata to the landowners, or government should acquire all those lands and say these are all non-developable zoning. So this situation may not happen. Hence, all the clearing the encroachments, keeping the waterways and maintaining the waterways and clearing the drainage connections and other things, constructing the retaining wall. At present, for a certain part, retaining walls are there. So constructing the retaining walls up to the continuous built-up area. These are all the some of the measures which can be done immediately. Whereas for the existing area, marking the land use as flood-prone zone and restricting the developments is not possible at present. This is what
right.
The
No, you are absolutely
at present.
Yeah, you are absolutely right.
But
Actually,
again, government has to take a decision.
you are absolutely right. See, actually, these are called floodplain zoning. Okay, when you do a floodplain zoning and demarcate those areas as prone to floods, it is known that this is the catchment area of a particular river or a lake, and then you are likely to be affected if there is any unauthorized construction takes place. It's called that no construction should actually take place in the floodplain zone. The Government of India, the Ministry of Home Affairs, had prepared a town planning bylaws and model town planning bylaws and send it to all the state governments and said you have to accept this and adopt this, and you prepare your own town planning bylaws. Very few states have actually done that. You can actually count them on your fingers, 2 or 3. It's not even the rest. So which means that you need to have a certain amount of political will to do this, and bureaucratic will to also convince the politicians and the state government that this has to be done. So which means that the municipal authorities and urban development authorities need to convince the senior bureaucrats that this has to be done. In the United States, if you build in a floodplain zone, you will not get any compensation if your house gets washed away. But in India, can we do that? Can we say that, you will not give any compensation if your house gets washed away? It's a vote bank, everybody actually. So we are not looking at development. In fact, I remember in 2004, after the tsunami, the coastal area, the Coastal Zone Management Authority also has these guidelines which say that 500 meters, beyond 500 meters only any construction is possible. So when the houses which were washed away in the tsunami were being reconstructed, were being proposed to be reconstructed, the government said that we will not allow the in situ construction of these houses, but we will allow houses only 500 meters away from the shoreline. Is that practical? In many cases it went above, on the other side of the road, where already people are staying, where already houses are there, where shops are there, commercial areas are there. So in many cases, many state governments diluted that 500 meter, guideline and said, we may allow 200 meters, 300 meters, and so, it was negotiated with the government and then with the district administration, and then finally they took decisions. If NGOs are building houses, if the owner is willing, then let them build, So you start making exceptions. So I think that is where we are going wrong, actually. We have to be very strong, and regulatory authorities have to perform the regulatory role. But I'm sorry to say, in most cases, the regulatory authorities are seen to be, ignoring that regulatory function, unless it actually comes into a real crisis. Right now, in the NCR, we are also having a real estate crisis. In Noida and Ghaziabad and Greater Noida, 10,000 crores is the accumulated dues of 95 builders to GNIDA. And, on the one hand, GNIDA is paying about 200 crores every month as interest to their loans which they have taken from the banks. And they have actually accumulated, dues of 10,000 crores. Similarly, Noida Authority has, and then, similarly, Ghaziabad Authority has. So, which means basically that, you allow about 5-6 years of accumulated dues collected by builders, and then you don't play your regulatory role. And then when it comes to a crisis, now 60,000 families, home buyers are in a crisis, and many builders are declaring themselves bankrupt. This is actually a crisis. This is a real crisis. So governance has to really look at some of these issues, and before the crisis actually becomes a real crisis, we need to really do preventive action. So we need to perform our functions. So the last concluding point from my side would be that your institution, whether it is a municipal body or a development authority, please have a disaster management plan. Please work with the district administration and prepare a plan which can actually then help you to respond when there is a crisis. And there are many issues, many issues of, you finding your own difficulties. In fact, if you have a multi-storied building, a 40-storied building, and if a fire and emergency service people can reach only up to 5 floors, and if a fire breaks out on the 10th floor, how do you rescue people? How do you evacuate people? These are some of the challenges, and I think, you will need to really work with your own district administration and your municipal bodies and your administrations to work together to find solutions. So I hope AMDA will take up disaster management as a priority subject, and then, 2-3 hours is not sufficient. We will need to really spend, a long period in understanding disaster management and looking into some of these issues. Actually, I was called into New York to advise the United Nations on the Ebola crisis, Ebola outbreak. When the Ebola outbreak happened, they said that, all the epidemiologists, there were 10 epidemiologists, including the Director General of MSF, Medicine Sans Frontier, and others who were called in, top epidemiologists were called in. How do you prevent Ebola from being an outbreak which can go across countries? How do you prevent Zika from being an outbreak which can actually paralyze humanity? And they said they wanted me to basically help them in understanding how to really do preventive work in creating awareness and strengthening preparedness, and then emergency response if the worst case happens. I'm sure many of you know that there were also 3 cases of Zika in Gujarat. But the Gujarat government and the health department did not want this to be reported because the foreign direct investment big mela was to happen, and the government of Gujarat did not want this to be mentioned because it will affect the foreign direct investment and foreigners coming into Gujarat. But ultimately WHO, the World Health Organization, found it and reported this and said that you have to do direct reporting, if there is an epidemic which can actually happen, because it compromises the health of the people of the country. And so, you need to report that. So epidemiology is a subject where I think the biggest wipeout is likely to happen from a epidemic outbreak. That is the next bigger one which is going to happen. It's a biological warfare. It could be terrorists using anthrax, or terrorists using earlier. During warfare, they used to have people affected with chicken pox would be put on catapults, and then they would throw it into the enemy camps. So you have a dead body with chicken pox, and then you can wipe out your enemy by spreading chicken pox, and it's very difficult. Or smallpox, those kind of incurable diseases. You can actually have something which can happen. You can have an epidemic outbreak. But now people are using advanced systems of even putting in a dead body, you're putting bombs and explosives and sending them to hospitals. And you have a patient who's a dead patient, a dead body is coming to a hospital, and then that whole hospital is blown up by one body, and it's a patient's dead body. And so you're even putting explosives into dead bodies. So we will need to be more alert about these kind of things which are happening. Radiological warfare can be the next big problem. IEDs can be a next big challenge that can happen. Terrorism, militancy, and insurgency. So these are all dangers. These are all real issues, and I think we need to be prepared to face any emergency, and we need to do our own diagnostics in terms of worst case scenarios and what is our level of preparedness. After something happens, to create phone numbers and find out who are the people and things, so that is not going to help. Yes. There's a microphone. Yeah.
I am from Delhi Jal Board. Basically, I am a civil engineer. In case of Bhuj, our teacher told us that the beam were not properly anchored with the help of strips, and in that case the beam burst out, and some portion going to the left side and some in the right side. The casualty, which may be one times, that goes to the second time. My question is that we know very much about disaster, how it can be mitigated, and how we can prepare it. But up to the root level, by which method we can reach this, we can told our citizens that it is so much important task,
Right.
which cannot be defined in a few words.
Right.
If there is a disaster and some extremist come in my plant and he put arsenic in a treated water, then what precautions we should take in this regard?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, I was very happy to see that there were three of you from Delhi Jal Board. When in Mumbai, the entire distribution of water to Mumbai comes from the Powai area, from the Powai Lake. And, the water tanks in Mumbai, the central water systems in Mumbai is so vulnerable that, if you need to paralyze Mumbai, you only need to basically look at that. You don't need cyber terrorism. You need to paralyze Mumbai, it will be with the water. Same with Delhi. To paralyze Delhi would be water. And you said about putting a few drops of arsenic. Few drops of arsenic will not do a damage. You know.
Arsenic in abundance. If a terrorist
no, but you know, if you look at the central water, groundwater board's statistics, in many districts of India, in many villages of India, fluoride, arsenic, lead, poisoning in drinking water is in unacceptable levels in many parts of India.